more than 10 years that this has been around. I look at you, so you don't look like this. Anyone show me your hand if you haven't heard about Agile? Really? Right, I think that you are probably in the beginning of your journey in terms of being a BA or being an IT professional, or you've been living in the woods for the last 10 years. Basically, this is what I expected a bit, because people are kind of tired, and this is not their first rodeo. They are hearing Agile a lot. So that's good. I'll be doing some basic stuff as well, and for you who heard about it, I think that it will be interesting as well. And I'm going to start with this. I'm going to start with the story. And starting with the story, do you have any idea what these pictures are about? Yep. Yeah, you know. This is a cargo cult. During the war in the Pacific, the Americans, they built military bases on these little islands where the natives lived, and they built landing strips, they built the towers, and they delivered cargo. So they delivered food, they delivered ammunition, they delivered weapons. The local natives saw that when you build, they will come, and when you build a landing strip, or when you build a plane or a place for planes to land, then you will get food, you will get ammunition, you will get weapons. So it's kind of like Agile in today's organizations that, well, if we make Scrum meetings, if we make sprints, if we make everything, then yeah, we will have a good software, but you don't understand why it's happening. The previous presentation had a why question in the middle, and I think that's good. And sometimes when you introduce Agile into your work, remember, don't do it like the natives in the Pacific Islands. Don't do the cargo cult, but think, why are you doing these things? And it's like, you know, King Julien. He has a really profound saying that is, quick, let's do it before we realize it doesn't make sense. And this is what a lot of companies are doing, and they are doing the King Julien way or the cargo cult way. So that's the one thing that I wanted to mention. Now, you probably all have mobile phones, and you install apps from startups, from big companies, and you can rate them, right? You can add, like, this is a 5-star application, this is a 1-star application. I was thinking about it, and this is, for me, how well you think the application is working, what is the quality of it. It is kind of a measure and direct feedback to the developers, how good their work is. And I was thinking about the 2 levels of quality. And basically, because I'm a friend of Polish Testing Board, I will be talking a lot about quality today, and a lot about Agile. And I came up with this thing. So normally, we have BAs in the top part of it. We do everything, we do all of the things that we do. We are getting paid because we want to create a business value. Or the application or the system we are working on, it has to create value. And it creates value when it checks some of these things. It needs to add some new requirements to the business user, or it has to remove a constraint that you have. And this is the main area of work of business analysts, the top part. So it has to give one or the other. But also what needs to be done is a certain level of quality. You have an app on your phone, and you are happy that it's doing its job. Let's take, I don't know, Spotify, for example. You are happy that it's playing music, and you have all the music in the world. When I was a little kid, I had a dream that if I win $1 million or something, I will buy every CD that is available and have a room, and whenever I want to play a song, I will play that song. It's, I don't know, 25 years later, and I have it for like, I don't know, 100 hryvnia a month, and I'm a millionaire in that case. So let's say you have Spotify, and you are happy that it's playing songs for you, but you will give it a 1-star if it wasn't working, if it, for example, it breaks, if you are not able, or if it steals all your contacts, and all your information and all your passwords to hackers, and they hack your bank account, for example. So there is a part of quality that is connected with the requirements, the functional requirements, and there is a quality that is connected to non-functional requirements. And well, Spotify, we tend to forgive a lot to the applications that we download on our phone, because these are just apps. You can absolutely live without it. But there are some cases. For example, if you want to buy a car, you wouldn't forgive anything. You pay a lot of money for this. You have a piece of software, for example, in your entertainment system, and then the quality is not an option. Like Facebook or Spotify, they can shift left, right? Or they tend to resign from testing by the IT team, and they just deploy for the users. If you ever been to New Zealand, for example, they are like a test market. Facebook introduce every change they have to New Zealand first, and the users of New Zealand test the application, and if something goes wrong, they just roll back. But what does it mean? It means nothing. They can easily roll back the change, and it won't have a profound consequences. But imagine a software working in a nuclear power plant, or your car, or a pharmaceutical company. If you want to buy drugs and medicine, that is something that needs to be tested, and you expect to be tested. So I have a saying: if you don't test your software by the IT team, basically you are not paying for this, you will be paying by the damage to your brand. And that's something to think about, that there is always a cost connected with the quality, but the quality is not negotiable, and we have to think it at every time in our time. And I will be talking a bit about Agile and traditional methods. So these are just some pictures that represent software delivery frameworks. You can see waterfall, you can see Scrum, you can see the V model. But I'll be talking about this. Every presentation or everything that you do, it has to have a vision, a goal. Agile goal is what is written right now on the screen. So you deliver more business value faster for less cost with higher quality deliverables in a sustainable way. And it's good to think about all of those things that are listed here, and think, what does it mean to be a BA in a team that does this, that tries to introduce this vision into the world. And I'll be talking about Agile principles, and probably if you had any training connected with Agile, sorry to the new guys from the woods, but this is like what it's all about. It's not about, if you go to Agile Manifesto, you have the Agile Manifesto, but I didn't want to do the cliche of displaying it one more time. I want to go one level deeper and look at the 12 Agile principles that are connected to it. And today I'll be focusing basically on sustainable pace and the quality. But let's talk about standard approach. So normally when you work as a BA, you work with discovering the requirements on the business level, refining them, and designing the solution. And then you have development and testing. So it's actually not working like this anymore. The serious companies, everybody that works in a company knows that it is something like this. It is a simplified V model when you have all different level of testing connected to different stages of the project. So I have a question to you to see where you are. Do you test your requirements before they are being built? Show of hands if you can. Okay, it's not bad. It's much better than I expected. I had a presentation when there were no hands back then, but basically what I want you to do and what I want you to start doing is to work with your quality assurance team when building a requirement. And this is especially important when you think about acceptance criteria, when you think about the requirement in a testable way, so we know how to check that this requirement is actually working. And to this, I really like this model. There's nothing bad about it. I think every Agile enthusiast will say to you that he is not against the traditional software delivery methods. It's just about the values and principles in Agile that you have to cover. But your company, if it works, if you have you need to have a certain deadlines, you have a budget. Sometimes you cannot introduce fully Scrum or any other Agile methodologies. But if you are true to what Agile is about delivering good quality software for less cost in a sustainable way, but you are using stages, you are using a certain framework, that is totally fine and totally okay for me. And this is called like big modeling up front. And this is what you get in any Agile training, that it works. If you want to build a bridge, you get the requirements, you build, you design, you build, test, and that's ready. And it is sometimes needed. Businesses, other businesses or other domains do not work in an Agile way. There are certain fixed dates, there are fixed budgets, and you don't always have to play around that. And it all depends where you work. If you work in a big software company, or if you work for a small startup, this may happen from time to time that you, for example, you have an open backlog, you can work, you have time and material contract, so everything that you do is you are getting paid and you don't have to worry about the budget in the business. And what is about the big modeling, it's usually the BAs are in the high tower, they design everything, they prepare a long document that is being checked, signed off, and pushed down the stream to the developers that have to code it or change it into some requirements. And this is a standard for many organizations. I know that many of people that start work, they want to introduce Agile, the cargo cult way, and they want to do everything as they should, but they clash with the traditional approach of big modeling up front. And there are some problems connected to that people observed in their work. There is a lot of waste, and the waste is caused by this, that when you document first what is going to be designed, then every change happen, and you have to be prepared for that. That means that a lot of your work will be scrapped and you have to start again. And this is a waste of the resources that you have. So, are there any vegetarians in the hall, right here? Congratulations. As you know, I love bacon, but I support vegetarians in every way. I think eating meat every day is a waste, and especially I have a friend, and we are on a trip together, and we got breakfast from the hotel, and he's eating a sandwich with ham, and I asked, I thought you were a vegetarian. And he said, yes, but this animal was already killed, and I hate waste more than I hate killing animals. And this is what I really liked about it. And I had a similar conundrum when I was in Iceland. And I eat meat, I don't want to hurt animals, like I like dogs and everything, and they eat whales there. And a question, would you eat a whale? And, you know, the day before I was watching Icelandic news, and they were showing when they killed the whale and they put it on the beach and they were carving the meat out of it. And I was like, this is madness, right? This is carnage. I can't even watch about it. I wouldn't eat it. And then I tried it, and yeah, I want to be on the whale ship with the harpoon and kill those beasts, and really they're so delicious that so okay, whale above bacon for me. And why did I eat that whale? And then I learned about the things that they're killing only the little whales. They are killing the minke whales, and they're doing it in a sustainable way. So they kill one every 2 to 3 months that is already in the bay that they have, and there are enough of them, so this is their specialty, and they have a signed contract. There are only 2 countries in the world that still eat whales. This is Iceland, and this is Japan. And Japan is not doing it in a sustainable way. They go to the ocean, they hunt big whales because this is an, I don't know, aphrodisiac for them, like a delicacy. But in Iceland, it is contracted, they have a certain amount to kill. There are enough whales that they can reproduce, and these are not the big species, not the big whales that you usually have, but the smallest one when there is a plenty of them. And I like this approach to life, the sustainable way, that you eat only what you can get, and you will be able to eat it for a long time. But back to big modeling up front. There is no chance to improvements. You only build a big project first, then you do it, then you test it, and, well, if there's a problem, you have to fix it. If everything's good, you haven't learned anything. There are no iterations. You know about the Agile principle. One of the things that are connected to Agile is that you have cycles, that you have a chance to get this Deming cycle here. And there is a decreased morale, and there are early decisions can be poor decisions. That's one of the, I think it's good enough. Let's go. And there were some other things connected with IT projects. So if you're working in an IT project, a lot of problems can be classified into some of the categories that I found. First of all, communication. If you have a chance in your company to do a training from communication, I strongly suggest you do it. It will be helpful in every way in your life, and it will help you in the projects in a meaningful way. There will be some problems with the performance of the team, so the team is not delivering as much, or you have the student syndrome, right? You've been students, you've been learning for an exam, and the most work you do is during the last week, last day, or anything like that, and it can be observable in the IT projects as well. And late changes, they can disrupt the project. You know, your product owner or your customer says, yeah, but I want everything to be blue now, and I want some changes, so be prepared for these kinds of things, and they can disrupt the project. Do you know what is a buzz factor? And this is one of the cool things that I learned. Yes? Yeah. Okay, so I will explain to everyone who haven't heard of it. We have like a main developer who is an architect for one of my projects, and Łukasz has a buzz factor of 1. So it means how many people have to be injured by the bus or killed by the bus, so the project will not go forward, right? So it's always good to have a backup, to have someone else who can do the job. If you lose one member of the team will still do its job, will still do what they are doing. Sometimes there is problem with overload, with context switching, doing many things at once, doing many projects at once, and you don't deliver at all. None of them, right? And there is a no feedback, low customer satisfaction at the very end. And all of these problems in IT projects were tackled by Agile in some way. So you have to first, like a doctor, you have to diagnose what's the problem, what is the disease, and then find a proper solution to it using, for example, Agile methods. And I wanted to now go and have a bridge in my presentation to the things about the BA stuff, so I literally put a picture of the bridge here. And now I want to ask you, you look the same age as me, so you've probably seen Lion King. Have you cried during the scene when Mufasa died? Yes? Yes. That's good. That's a good thing. I do it like a test of empathy. And empathy, I think, is a really, really good value, good skill, ability that you need to have as a business analyst. There is a second movie that I watched recently, Manchester by the Sea. This is one of the saddest movies that I've ever seen in my life, but it triggered my empathy button. Basically, this guy, I felt like this guy during watching this movie. I don't know why, but this guy has a brother. He had kids. I don't have a brother. I don't have kids, but I really felt like I lost them after watching that movie. So I strongly recommend it, but why I'm talking about this is about the empathy. I added this to this presentation to talk. So the definition is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. I was having a job interview a couple of years back, and one of the requirements, one of the tests was like a psychology test, and they tested also empathy in there. And I got like a really, really low score, but I cried during The Lion King, so I don't know why, really. But I decided like I want to know why didn't they accept me. The main problem was a low level of empathy, and now I know that this is a very important job. I'm working on with myself to understand people's feelings, to know how they feel, because I've observed these problems, and during one of the recruitment process, it was also shown to me. And I want to talk about cognitive empathy. This is the part that is really important when we are talking about working as a BA. And this is the capacity to understand another's perspective that you need to have to properly write down the requirements, refine them, understand them, translate them, everything that we do. And this is from a psychology source. I think it was sourced in the Wikipedia in one of the links. Some of the behaviors that you can observe, even with children, but also with your teams, and these are the factors that can show that you have really low empathy. And for example, if you find yourself in a prolonged argument with others, if you form your opinions early and you try to defend them, and all of these things are kind of natural to our human nature, and you can observe it from time to time. And this is not a white or black situation. This is a spectrum of behaviors. It's just good to understand that you are doing this. That if you think that other people are overly sensitive, if you refuse to listen to the other points of view, if you're blaming others for your mistakes or you're holding grudges, these are all the things that we sometimes feel. That means that you probably have like a low level of empathy. And it is basically showing that there is an inability to work in a team productively. So I strongly encourage you to think about when you are working with your team to see if you observe any of these behaviors. And this was a lesson for myself that I wanted to share, that you need to work on your empathy to be a good BA. And how to work on empathy. So there are empathy trainings. You can go to psychology trainings. You can watch some movies around it. You can go and do improv classes or acting lessons. Basically, acting is about thinking about other person's perspective and trying to do that with your body. So just this is a part that I added to share my experience with you. And then we talked about the problems in IT in general, and we will go back a bit to the cargo cult Agile introductions here. So many people think that introducing Agile means we will not do a documentation anymore. We will use, as a BA, as a system user, I want the system to do everything. And let's do it, and let's build it and test it, and we don't have a specification anymore. This is not correct. People say that estimations are not accurate because you don't have a long-term plan as you have with big modeling up front, so you don't know when you finish. Actually, with a proper Agile introduction, you will know more when to finish because your estimation changes from sprint to sprint, so you know how much time you spend on every of the feature, and the estimations should be more accurate than the ones that are modeled up front because they change, because they adapt, and because you have this feedback cycle, you have the data to update your estimations. Many people think that doing Agile means that you will no longer have requirement management process, and that's the totally opposite. That means that you need to have a better requirement management process than in the modeling up front, because it needs to be ready for a change. Agile means you trust people enough so teams are self-organized. And this trust doesn't mean a lack of control. You still have these meetings, you still have demo sessions with your product owner, with the customer. That's why you have like a level of control here. And people think, like if you introduce Scrum, you have to put all the people together in one room and they can work as a Scrum team for a sprint, for example, for 2 weeks. It's not the way that people sit together that makes a productive team. It's how they communicate. You can have a distributed team that performs better than the team sitting together. I'm not saying that sitting together is bad. It is a good proven point that you have like a synergy effect, that you know what's going on, that people are informed, people are on the same page, and you have less problems with communication. But just sitting together is a cargo called Agile. Communication is the proper Agile here. And customer satisfaction is not your primary objective. It is a consequence of your things. It should be the result. And you will not say yes to everything that customer says. You also have a right to say no. You need to be assertive. You need to discuss, and you need to have conversation about the requirements. And this is one of the important things in being Agile. You don't say yes to everything. You say yes, but, or yes, but how, and these are the correct questions. And now we have like traditional business analyst tasks that you probably have, and these tasks do not disappear. There are still people, this is a part of the role that needs to be done in Agile and in Waterfall, and this is our job. And basically, you know this meme, why beekeepers cannot live in peace, right? And usually you have this kind of picture, and they are saying, miodowy, lipowy, no, it's... So I'm saying that you shouldn't be against each other in terms of your software delivery methods. There is a work for BA in every model that you have, in every organization. The traditional business analyst tasks are still there, whether or not you are doing Agile or not. There is still communication to be done. There are still demo session, refinement session. There is still documentation to do, requirements process, requirements gathering, modeling, testing, and representing stakeholders. So business analysts just change the way of their thinking, change the way towards the Agile principles and the Agile vision. So we have like different requirements times. I won't go through that, you probably know them. And normally all of these are in the different levels. And all of this is like a traditional approach that you have business requirements on the top, and they go to a document like a requirement specification. You first talk about the business goals, then about the user level, and then you talk about the details. I just wanted to show during this presentation that this traditional approach is good. It's just that the form that we are doing this in Agile is the one that enables us to change it a bit, enables us to discuss about the requirements, and accepts the change in it. It's not being modeled up front without any feedback loop. And I follow this kind of way when dealing with the project. I'm sure you have your own. And I came up with the perfect Agile requirement management process. I will not tell you what to do exactly, but I could write down the bullet points with these characteristics. So it has to enable communication. That's good. It needs to accept change. It supports reusability, so we don't waste our work. It has built-in traceability. So my QAs will kill me if I don't tell about traceability. Do you have your requirements connected with the test cases? Show of hands. Perfect, and my QAs are happy now. Your key characteristics are you enable review grooming and the composition of your requirements. That should be a perfect process. It should help you with prioritization and planning. It supports collective wisdom, living stories, and acknowledging extras. So this is a point that I want to talk about for a minute. So in normal modeling, you have the subject matter experts all sitting in the ivory tower, and they send the wisdom to the team who doesn't know everything. Here is the document that you have to implement. In Agile world, maybe a developer really likes listening to music and can help with, I know, Spotify application, Spotify-like application. So you are treating the people as people, and that's what we all should do. And if they know something, you listen to them and you gather their feedback, and you have to also listen when you discuss about the stories. And final point, use Agile to build your Agile process. So it should be an evolution. You don't have to do everything at once. You don't model your process at once. You introduce little changes, see how they work with your team, and then introduce more to see what the problem is. Understand why, do not do the cargo code. And it should look like this. This should be like a backlog that is living, and new work items are being added. There is a high priority with higher detail, low priority with lower detail, and pull versus push. So people choose what to do. It's not being pushed on them with the deadline. And this is one of the Agile things. I will not talk about pull versus push today. And we talked about traceability as well. And we know about user stories. So user stories is actually everything that you have in your requirement specification can be treated as a user story. The user story has actually three great ideas. You know this company, is it in Ukraine? Like shoes, they're making shoes, right? So this is like a Polish company that has a perfect name to what I want to show. It is the characteristic of the user story. Card, it needs to be readable on one card in a finite time, right? It needs to support conversation. So you have to discuss the requirements with everyone. So you spread the knowledge among the team. And confirmation, the testability, how it's going to be checked, what are the acceptance criteria. And that's what a good requirement is in the software requirement specification. So I just wanted to show you that this is not a revolution. This is just an evolution with some of the values that you have inside. And a good, a good requirement should follow one thing, and this is invest. So a good requirement should be independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable. And what I worked on, and I'm very proud of this moment, so hear me out. I have checklist for user stories, product backlog items, version 2.0. I name it investment. And this is basically what I was talking about, requirements testing. So is it necessary, complete, consistent with all other requirements, free on unverifiable terms, traceable, feasible, clear and concise, free of implementation, current, is it up to date, modifiable, written in a good style and format. What is the most important thing? The three dots, that this can be extended, right? So as you work, you can add more and more things to check to your requirements, and I strongly recommend. And there are some other techniques, but always remember why you are doing this. You can add this to user stories, and they can be in other things as well. And final slide that I want to show. Use Agile tools and techniques because they are helpful. Envision non-functional requirements. I told you quality is not an option to some cases. You can work in the project when it just has to be there, that is expected from you. Document continuously and late. The best documentation is the documentation that you did as the last thing, because it's up to date. You don't have to change anything. And it's good to be lazy as a business analyst sometimes. I mean, first you discuss, you do, and then you write. You have no waste at all. And you understand why you use certain techniques. Do not build airplanes out of the wooden trees. Just understand why you're doing this, and do not block communication with your team. I'm very happy that I've been here. I'm open to your questions. Thank you very much for having me.